What's up YouTube, Jay Travelini here. Today I got another PC build, finally building another one. So I got a Cooler Master, Master Box 520 case. It does come with ARGB fans pre-installed in the front, and then one just regular fan in the back, but we're gonna be replacing them all with these up here fans, which are all RGB and has a remote. So I might actually have 6 fans in this total. I'm gonna replace the 3 in the front, put 2 more on top, 1 in the rear that's all RGB. He will need Wi-Fi, so I got a Wi-Fi TP-Link AC1200 that I'm gonna put in it. And then we have this I've never used before. It's a Red Dragon 500 watt power supply. They usually make peripherals and they have very good reviews. When I went to Micro Center, they had this in stock, 500 watts, 80 plus bronze certified, which I usually use Thermaltake, but this actually has a higher certification, so I went with this. And it actually saved a few bucks. And then on Facebook Marketplace, I picked up an Asus H170 motherboard. It has an i5 6402P on it right here, and it actually comes with 16 gigs of RAM. I actually picked this whole package up for $170, which is very good for what it has on it, especially packing 16 gigs of RAM. This one came in a pre-built private iBuyPower that the guy bought, and he was selling it to upgrade it. It sold to me very cheap, so pretty happy with this purchase. I'm sorry, not 170. I paid $70 for this, so I got it really cheap. So for a boot drive, we just have a typical 120 gigabyte SSD. Picked these up at Micro Center for fairly cheap. And then I also bought really cheap online from actually a kid that I knew. I know it's going to be hard to see this video, but this is actually an i5 7600K. Now I know that it's an H170 motherboard, so I will have to make sure the BIOS is up to date. So I'm gonna have to build the whole computer, get into the BIOS, and update it so that I can get it to accept this chip. It also is an H board, not a Z board, so overclocking is pretty much almost non-existent. But since we won't be overclocking, I'm just going to reuse this CPU cooler. So 2 things will get accomplished with me replacing the CPU. The fact that that's a used motherboard with a used processor, since it's going to a 10-year-old kid, he's going to have fresh thermal paste on his CPU, so the parents won't have to worry about that. Then to top it all off, the graphics card, I'm using a 1650 Super that I picked up. You'll see the sticker, it's open box at Micro Center, so I picked that up really cheap. After tax, it was like $132. Great price of performance graphics card if you're just looking to get into gaming. It actually outperforms a GTX 1066 gigabyte. So I do highly recommend that if you're on a tight budget, which this person wanted just a budget build for their kid. So first thing I'm gonna do is tear down this case and replace the fans. I won't put the top fans in because when I mount the motherboard, I'll need the space. So I might need to do all that. So I did put mouse pads down at my workstation just so that I have something to work on that's not just wood. I don't want to mark up the case at all. So I have my screwdriver here. I have to see how this front casing comes off. It usually just pops right. Usually the front casings for fans just pop right off. I gotta see here. Undo the screws, put this somewhere safe. So this one actually looks like the fans are screwed in from this side. So when I pop this front casing off, I'm gonna have to unscrew them from this side, which means I might have to find my stubby screwdriver to get into the bottom. I might be able to access it through the back, but we'll see. This one will just screw in through the back, so I'll just replace that pretty simply. Not that big a deal on that one. As you see, I just cupped it right in here and just popped that right off. So I'm gonna get these all 4 unscrewed and replace all these fans, get this piece back on so I don't lose it. And not that I would lose something that big, but get all the fans put in, get some wiring ran, and then we'll get the motherboard put in. One thing, I'm actually just gonna do it right now, put the IO shield in, because it is one thing that I forget a lot. So instead of looking for a stub, I'm just gonna pop this off. There's a couple screws and this should slide right out. I'm gonna need it off anyway. So I'm gonna pop this off. We'll put this off to the side. Put it somewhere where it's not gonna get interfered because I'm already tripping over the glass. And then the back, I'll have all this. This is all my wiring for the power buttons up top. And like a little bit of lighting and effects and things like that. Some stuff I'm gonna take out because we don't need it. I'm also gonna have to get the hardware tray or the hard drive tray out. These slide right out, which is nice. To access the screws to this fan, since that cage is right in the way, I am gonna have to find my stubby and hope that I can get to these screws. I'll be able to get this fan out somehow. So I'm gonna have to go find that. My power supply mount here. I have to see where I'm gonna mount my SSD, but I'm gonna get these fans taken out now, this fan taken out, get those 4 in. These 2 up top, I'm gonna wait until after my motherboard's in. It's easier for me to install fans at the top than to try and fish a CPU wire out, because usually there's only a small gap. It's actually a different style. That'll pop right out. It's not even screwed in. But I will need to get a stubby to screw that one in. This last fan, it's not screwed. They have these like pins in it. So I'm hoping when I pop that out, that's actually pretty easy. I may be able to reuse that actually. I can reuse these because I'm using 120 millimeter fans. I can reuse these little pins. And just pushing from the back a little bit. Push from the back a little bit. Push from the back a little bit. One more time. If I can get my finger in there. Just give it a little push from the back, and there we go. So what happens, I have to look at this fan, is I will need this whole piece. So this style, you're gonna slide it through it, and these little like fins here are what's gonna hold it. So when you push them together and get it through the fan and then through the case, and then when you slide this pin through, it'll expand these fins while the fan's installed, and that's how it holds the fan in. So I'm gonna keep those, so I'm gonna reuse those. Instead of screwing my fans in, I'm gonna reuse these because that's actually nice in case they need to take these fans out. Fans can go bad, they can fail on you, so we'll keep using those. We'll reuse these to make for ease of use. I'm just gonna put them off to the side. So I'm gonna unscrew the rest of the fans. I mean, they're just screws, you just unscrew it. So I'm gonna do that, get these fans put in, and then we'll get on with the build. All right, so as you can see, we got all the fans out. I unscrewed them, pretty simple. I actually used my impact gun to speed it up a little bit. Don't recommend using power tools on a PC, but to take fans out wasn't a big deal. It's just screws coming out, not in. When you're putting them in, I would not recommend that. You know, all 4 of the fans are out. Pretty much a blank canvas for me to work with. Looks pretty crummy right now, being that it's bare. So I'm gonna get the fans in, get this thing dressed up, and get this thing looking pretty sick for this kid. So I'm gonna try and, I guess I'll just have to put it on the screwdriver, wherever I put that. So I'll get my screw. If I can get it. So what I like to do is I have one in. I like to get the cross one in, so I'll get the one in down here, and then I'll go from there and I'll tighten those two down so I know it's centered. So I'll get this one in. I'll do this for all of them, just so I know that it's in a good spot. So I'll end up tightening these down now, just so I know it is where I want it to be, and not, and I don't have it crooked, or you know, I don't have certain holes lined up, because as long as I have these two lined up, these two are going to line up. So let's get the rest of the fans in. I'll tighten these down, and then we'll take it from there. All right, so we got 3 of the 4 fans in, so they're mounted in. You can see they're looking, case is looking a lot better. So this is what I wanted to show you guys with these pins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these back out, because I put them in there so I just didn't lose them. I'm going to pull these pins back out of it. They should come out pretty simple since it's not installed in the case. And what you want to do is make sure you want to make sure you have the fan the proper way. So I know I'm going to mount it this way into the case, so I can put them in this way. So you want to kind of like, you don't really need to squeeze them, but you want to kind of work these into the fan. Kind of push on them a little bit. They will go in. So now that one's in. So I'll put that in the case that way, and I'll do that for all 4. So we want to get them all in. And this is how we're going to mount the fan. I've done this once before in the past. I usually use screws, but this in those tight areas like we have down here, these work pretty well. So we'll keep pressing them in, and we'll get this fan installed. So it can be a little bit tricky, but you just gotta have some patience. Eventually you will get this fan in. You also want to check, once it's done and installed, you want to check and make sure that you have it secured down good. And when you're pushing these through, make sure you're not bending one back. You don't want to lose any of it. So I'm trying to take my time, but this one kind of got a little bent out too much, so I'm going to bend it back. And it's trying to fight me a little bit. And there we go. Took a little more influence on that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push these into there. And this can get a little tricky because I'm using these holes here. It's going to be a little tricky, but I'll get it. So you just want to work one at a time. And because it's so tight, it's going to be tough. You can always use a flathead screwdriver too. I probably have one laying around to try and like wiggle it in there. I have some precision ones over here. So I have a precision flathead. I'll try and help it go in. That one's in. That one's in. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of gently pushing on the plastic to bend it a little, to close it a little bit, just to, oh, that one's in, just to help it out. And actually, that was easier. So it's actually easier to pull it up a little bit and then push it down. So now that's in there. So when I was a little quick with that, but it's easier. When I say it's easier to push it up a little bit, I was literally, that's fine, that's good. I was literally pulling it up just a tiny bit, so it sat in this plastic piece right here. So it closed it, and then held the fan down, pushed it in, and it worked. So now you just push these in. So this is, the hard part's over, easy part, push these in. And now we have a secure fan. So that's in there pretty good. That's not going anywhere. So that is how we got that fan in. For anyone that hasn't used that type of mount before, give you a little description on how to use it. So now all our cabling is pushed to the back here. I can actually pop this piece back on, and it's just gonna sit. So I have USBs here and headphone jacks, so I need them to sit right. But it'll just snap in. You heard the clicks. We're back in business now. 3 brand new fans in the front, another one in the back. So my fans, you see up here, all the same way. My fans, I'm gonna have, because if you look at this, I mean, this is just plastic, but it's got 2 vents here. Not the best of airflow in my opinion. I would like more. I know my Corsair case is similar to this. So I'm gonna have these all intake, and I'm actually gonna have the top 2 intake, and just have the 1 exhaust in the back. It's a little bit of a positive airflow, but because of this cooler that we're using, we're not water cooling. I want to give some fresh air to that to cool that CPU down. Not that it's going to be pushed really that hard, but I just want to make sure that's getting enough cool air to cool it. I don't know where they're putting this, so that's good. So the next thing that I'll need to do, now that the fans are in, I think my next step, normally what I would do with my motherboard and everything, I would actually put this together outside of the case, but since I bought it as a package on Facebook Marketplace, it's already together. I will need to replace the CPU. I don't need to. This is way more than what this kid will need, but I got such a good deal on another CPU. I have a 6600K I can use, or 7600K. So pretty much I'm gonna update this BIOS and put the 7600K in it. And I'm just gonna reuse this cooler. But I mean, it's more than adequate. But since I bought this as a package, it's already together, I don't need to do that. And he's packing 16 gigs of RAM, which I'm pretty happy about. Usually in budget builds, I only throw 8 in just because of budget reasons. But since I got this for such a good deal, you know, he's got 16 gigs. So what I like to do when I'm putting these in is, when I'm putting it in, and I lay it on the ground, but I'm trying to show you, you want to like slide these in to the IO shield, but there's all these little pins there that people bend in and out, which is the downside of buying stuff used. So I gotta like re-bend some of them, or just bend them completely back. I've even, to the point where these things annoyed me so much, just broke them off. I mean, they really don't always serve a purpose, but it looks like my Ethernet one is going to pose me an issue, so I'm going to have to bend that one back. It looks like it's bent a little bit, so if I bend it back just slightly, I should be able to just slide this in. Once the cooler is mounted on this, it's okay to pick it up by the cooler. It's not going to hurt it at all. This style I'm not too big on because it's just plastic tabs in the back, and you kind of just unscrew it and pop it out. That's how Intel does theirs. I'd much rather screw one on like, you know, you would an Evo 2i2 or something. But we're gonna slide this in, and that's pretty much it. Then I'm gonna mount it. So one thing, I may have another, nope. So we're in. So that's mounted. I can actually screw this on now. When I build these, I'd suggest, and I had a friend of mine not do this, put a couple screws in it to secure it, which I'll do now, and then check your IO shield and check those metal tabs. One, make sure they're not inside of a USB port. My friend called me a few days ago, or texted me, saying that it wouldn't post, he was getting this overload in a USB port. And you know, I said, you know, I never had this issue, but this may sound silly. Look at your IO shield and look at those little pins or metal tabs, and make sure one's not inside of your USB port, shorting it out. Needless to say, that was his issue. He took his whole motherboard out and bent the pins back, put it back in. His computer's working beautifully now. So that's definitely one thing to look. I'm gonna spin this slowly because that isn't secure. And from what I can see right now, it looks like looks like we're good. One I always have an issue is this HDMI one slides into the HDMI port, but this one looks perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount this motherboard. We'll spin it back ever so slightly because we're not screwed in. I'm gonna put this off this is a dust shield. It just fell off the bottom. It's for the power supply. But we're in. So we'll screw this in. I gotta find the screws inside the kit. You know, anytime you buy a new case, it should come with all the screws in here. Cooler Master usually sends you some extra stuff, which is nice. So they send you this little thing, which is nice. It's to put standoffs in. So I'm gonna put a couple screws in it and secure it. I'm trying to push these off this side. I should get my tray just to be safe, but who knows. So like I said, I usually do this laying down, with it laying down. Just trying to find an easy one. Here's one. So I don't torque these in too tight. That's it. And guess what? That board's not going anywhere now. So I can put a couple more in. And I don't go in order. I kind of just like go out a little, like I'll do one here, there, and make sure it's seated well. Because you have some, like, one's up here that's hard to get to. This one's hard to get to. This one up here is not as hard, but they can be a pain. So I'm actually gonna have to lay this down just so I can get to some of them. But you guys are seeing, I mean, it's not too hard to put this stuff in. So we got the motherboard mounted. So the next thing I'm gonna do is mount hard drives. And then I'm going to do the power supply. So in this case, I'm going to show you how these hard drives are mounted. So I do have a mechanical drive that I didn't mention before I'm going to put in it. This is a 1 terabyte, give them some storage. And then, like we said, the 120 gigabyte boot drive, the SSD. So the SSD is a little different. Mechanical drive will just slide in here. We'll push this little tab in, separates. Take out the packaging here. And these, I usually have a couple of these sitting upstairs in my office. So we slide it in, snap it, it's secure. So these are nice, these quick release kind of deals, and then boom, that's in. So that's put into the case, that's not going anywhere. This was a little different than what I'm used to. These are little thumb screws that came with the case that screw in. And then on the back here, there's little rubber grommets. I'm gonna get one to show you here. This all comes with the case, but there are these little rubber grommets here. And this one was broke, it's separated, but it came like that on the line. But you just pop it in. You literally just push them into here, and then that's how we're gonna mount our SSD. I've never mounted them this way, but it'll work. So right now it's gonna be upside down, but no one's gonna see it. And then we just slide it in, and then that's our SSD mount. They're so lightweight that works. And then I have a couple cables to run them. These are my last 2 SATA cables, which kind of sucks. So I need to make sure I can get it onto here. Hopefully it's a right angle, which I don't like. So maybe I can get it on the other side with the right angle. We'll see. Hopefully I can. If not, maybe I can swap out one of the ones on my mining rigs, and hopefully I have one that's not a right angle on there. But since they're in, I'm gonna start running some cabling. So you have this, which is ran to the top. So this will run up. You have your HD audio, which you'll notice a pin that's blocked off, so that's easy to find. And then you have your USB 3.0. So this is all runs the front paneling. So when we hook it up, there's your power button, your reset switch, which is right here, a power LED, which will light this up, and then a hard disk drive LED, which will be this light over here, and that'll just blink when the hard drive's in use. So we'll get all that. And if you have good eyes, you can see on the motherboard it's usually labeled. If not, just look into your manual. and you'll see where they go. And then we'll get these plugged in, and we'll do our power supply. And those are the next couple steps. So now I'm looking, this one has two USB 3.0s. There's one down here and there's one up here. So I'm probably just gonna wrap it, and I usually use the one up here. If I have enough cable, I might use this one for a cleaner look. I'm always looking to see what I can do that'll be the cleanest. So I'll probably put that one. It's just that the wire is so thick, I don't want to bend it much. So if I come up, it's not even going to want to come up through there. So we may be stuck with the other one. I don't want to run it through here. This is for like your GPUs. So I don't know if I like that. I'm gonna use this one. I don't like that look. So we'll slide that. This one's not too bad. So we'll just plug it in there in a minute. I'll probably plug in my power to this first, just because I don't want to disrupt this or bend any pins, or else then I'm stuck using that one. Not that it would be bad, but I just don't like the wire hanging out down here. And then these are HD audio, I believe, is over here. So I'll route this up through here, and then it just pretty much just plugs right in. So these wires are thinner, so they bend easier, so it's better in that sense. So then we just pop that in, and that one's in. So these are the ones that are most pain. So they're down here, and I'm gonna have to lay it down to probably do this, but you have your reset switch, which is there. Hard disk drive LED and power LED are usually on the bottom of it, and I just have to see where. So our power LED is at the top, our reset is down bottom, and you can pull these apart a little bit if you need to. I try not to. So reset switch, and it's written very small down there, you can see. This is just tedious. I personally like to do the bottom ones first. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. You can put them in any order. It's not that big a deal. I just do the bottom ones first, and then get these in and the power switch, and then we'll be good to go. And these you can do one at a time, which is nice. So these couple I'm doing now, you can actually do them one at a time, which is nice. So they can be a pain. And then the last one is our actual power button. I'm over too far. So that's them installed, and then we'll just kind of push this wire right back down to clean it up a little bit. Just be careful not to bend anything. But now we have a nice clean look at the bottom of our case. So now that we got these in, they're seated pretty well. They're seated. We got them ran down here, so that's clean. And I'll clean up the back of the case later. Let's get our power supply then, and then we'll get that installed. So to mount this, we'll just slide it in, and the lettering will probably be upside down, but you'll notice the holes on the back. You just kind of want to look and see where they're at. Usually it looks like it goes this way. So I'll slide this in. And I'll leave the cabling hanging out. Then what we need to do is line it up down here with these holes. And then just screw it in. Pretty self-explanatory. So that one's there. These will go there. So get one there, and there, and we'll screw those in with the screws that came with the power supply. So I'll have to get those back out. So they're right here, and we'll just start screwing it in. So what I like to do when I'm mounting a power supply, I'll start it off on each one, but I will not tighten it down until I get all 4 on. And the reason for that is I don't want to pull it too hard to one way to where I can't get the other screws in. So I'm just going to start them so that I can line them all up where I want it to be. I'll line it up perfectly once it's all started. Because you'll see it start to pull the power supply. Just not like pull it, but it'll seat it where you want it. So now that all 4 are started, I'm going to tighten them down. And then pretty much what we're going to do after that, that one was seated crooked, so I backed it out a little bit. You don't want to cross thread stuff because then it makes it a nightmare later on. So if you think something's crossed, loosen it. Take it out, start over. Save yourself the hassle later. These I'll give them a little bit of tightness to them, but like you never want to crank down and stuff. Like once it's tight, it's tight. It's not going anywhere. A lot of times, these are just sitting there anyway. You don't even really need them stuff screwed down for the most part. But so there we go, all 4 tightened. So now what I do with the cabling, so this will go up there eventually. I look and see what I need. These wires are actually really nice. I'm actually surprised. They're flat, they're not big and bulky. This one's gonna go into here. That's my motherboard power. Most of the time it's labeled, so this is, I know just by looking at it that this is my CPU power. It's a 4-pin, and that's gonna get routed up here. And this is why I didn't put that fan in right away. So I'll probably get like something to put that there. I have wiring there. So this is, since it's a little inexpensive one, it's not modular, so I'm gonna have a lot of extra wiring. So one of these is gonna go to my SSD, one of these is gonna go to my hard drive, one of these is gonna power my up here, fan controller, and then that's pretty much all of it. This I'll install later. Once I get the fans in, I'll install this. It's probably just gonna be down here. I'll just tuck it under, and then you can use the fan controller thing. CPU power, motherboard power, these will just sit there, so I'll just tilt this back down. So my CPU power is there. So that's going to be the hardest one. And then my motherboard power is here. So now we got the motherboard power and CPU power connected. What I like about this case is these actually screw in and out. On the lower inexpensive cases, they actually break off. Once you take it out, it's out forever. So I can remove these. So for the graphics card, I'll be removing these 2. And then the Wi-Fi adapter, I'm gonna look, I'm gonna try and put it in this one. I have to see if it interferes with the GPU at all, but I may have to put it down here in this, and have it powered down there, and it'll just be down here. So this I'll route up. I have all my cabling down here secure. The last thing is, like I said, my USB 3.0 will just plug in down here. So I'm gonna go under this wiring and plug it in. And you'll see a little tab. This little tab here, there's a little tab that you can insert right there. So now our USB 3.0 has power. We'll tuck that back like that, just for like a nice cleaner look. I would have loved to use this one, but it just didn't look, the cars didn't play right. Sometimes they have a little cut out. I didn't want a wire running like this way. I didn't want it hanging out. This reduces the wiring a little bit, so it'll look cleaner when he's running it. Now what's left is to hook up our hard drives. So I have the SATA cables, so I'll get them hooked up. I always try to use the lowest number SATA port. So you have 0, 1, 2, and then like 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. So I'll put my main boot drive on 0, and then I'll use my secondary drive. I'll probably have it on 2. Or one will be my boot drive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 will be my boot drive, and then 2 will be my secondary drive. Some people say it doesn't matter. Some people say it does. So I always just use the lowest. So I'm gonna try and get this right angle one on there. I don't think it's gonna work. It's not gonna work. One of these will work on my hard disk drive. So I can plug this in. They just click right in. All right, so the hard drive's all hooked up. And I ran the SATA power to it. So we'll do the same thing for the SSD. I'm gonna plug it in and it just clicks in. Route my wiring. I'm gonna end up going like that. Now let's go to the back. I'm just gonna pull it through. Got my SSD. Oh, this will click there. We'll get some SATA power. It's a Molex. And you'll see it's like in the shape of an L how it goes in. Plug that in. We'll tuck this wiring under here. Pop this on. Now we have a nice clean install of that. And this we want accessible, because I'm probably going to end up running it this way depending on how that graphics card sits. So other than installing the graphics card, one last thing for me to do is I'm going to run the power to this just off of this. I don't know if I'm going to sit down here or down here. Depends on where I get all the wiring from. So I'm going to install these 2 top fans. And it's pretty straightforward. The screws are going to sit in these grooves and they're just going to screw right in. So I'm going to do that real quick. The fans are installed now. They're up top, screwed in, and I routed some of the cabling. So for the fans, it looks like I'm going to have to get our controller and probably put it down here next to the power supply, which is, I mean, it's okay. I would have much rather had it tucked away, but it doesn't have much leeway for this fan. So I'm going to have to just have it plugged in, resting down here. So they're just going to pop right in. That's it. That's how you mount that. So I can have it just sitting down here when I shut the case, and it'll be fine there. So I'm going to keep routing these. I just have a couple more here, and it's not going to be as pretty as I'd like back here, but it'll work. So they don't need to be in any type of order either, which is nice. So I'm just going to kind of pop them all in, get power to it, and I believe that's the last thing left for me to do is install that graphics card, and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to finish installing all these, we'll get the power, and then we'll install the graphics card. Alright, so I got the wiring ran. It's all hooked up here. It's all hooked up to our controller here, and I used some twist ties here to try and just clamp down our wires to manage them a little bit better. There's a lot of them. The fact that this isn't a modular power supply makes it a little bit harder, just because I have so many extra cables down here that I normally wouldn't have if I had a modular power supply. So I kind of stuff them down here, stuff them in the hard drive cage. This will sit right here. Once I have the back cover on, which we'll put on in a minute, it'll just cover it up. I ran my CPU or my graphics card power right here, so I'm just gonna, it'll just plug in right here. I can also run it up through here, and it'll plug up, but I don't like the whole up the middle personally, so I'll just run it like this. It'll probably sit out like right here. It'll give it a pretty clean look, so we'll get that installed. Let's get the back cover on, and then we'll do the graphics card. So this is just literally gonna go over top and slide back in, and then you screw it in. So just line it up and slide it. So that's it. I screw it in. These are thumb screws, easy to do. We're back, and we're back on. Now what's left is the graphics card. So I'm going to take these screws out and get the plate out. Alright, so getting this GPU installed, it's the last thing other than the Wi-Fi card, but I can do that later. We just gotta pretty much unscrew these a little bit. I'm gonna unscrew these two and put this in, because this is, you'll see, takes up 2 bays. So you literally unscrew them. And then we're gonna seat it. So there is a clip right here. We want to push it back, and that's going to hold the GPU in place. So we're going to push it back, and now we're going to seat this. And it's clipped in. Now we want to put these screws back in to secure our graphics card. So I'm going to lightly put them in, start screwing it, and I'm going to hold the graphics card up a little bit and tighten it down. I hold it up a little bit just to prevent some sag, and then the screws are pretty much what's gonna hold it in place. During shipping, I'll put either some padding underneath and up top, or I'll remove the graphics card. But in this case, when I ship this, I'll probably just put some padding in it and tell them to remove it. So that's pretty much that. Now we're gonna plug in our power. Since it's only one 6-pin, I have to remove this, and it just, this slides right off and it'll fold back. Boom, there we go. Now I'll get some zip ties here. Actually, I'll use twist ties so they can, in case we want to redo it. I just want to hold the cabling back a little bit. You can use, to do that, you can use zip ties. I call these zip ties, twist ties. You just go and you pull them. You can use like the Velcro ones that sometimes they give you. But I mean, that's pretty much it. We're ready to pretty much post. We can get the Wi-Fi card that I'm gonna put in it. It's just gonna seat. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put it actually. I'm probably just gonna do this later. Most people won't use Wi-Fi cards. I always recommend using Ethernet and not Wi-Fi. But if we look at it, I don't know if this is the one I used before. I'm just gonna, yeah, we can just mount it right there. It shouldn't be in the way of anything. So I'm gonna remove this. Same process as our graphics card. And this is, I like to use internal, it's better in my opinion. This is just gonna pop in, and this one screw's pretty much, it's gonna hold it in place. It doesn't have a tab like the graphics card does. So I'm gonna start screwing it, I'm gonna hold it up and tighten it down. So what I like about this card is it doesn't take up a USB slot. It's pretty low profile, and it has 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So if he's close enough to the router when he's using it, he can actually access it, and it should self-install itself. I have a disk, but these just screw on and give it some pretty good Wi-Fi range. So he'll be pretty happy with that. I'll end up shipping them that separate. And people are doing ITX or mini builds, it does come with this plate also, so you can swap out the back plate for a smaller build. But pretty straightforward, graphics card and stuff installed. I'm just gonna put these in here for now. I don't need the antennas. And now the only thing left now other than the power on is put the glass on. Now the glass has thumb screws on it. You're gonna, on this case, kind of angle it in. It's gonna catch. So it's sitting flush, and you're just gonna thumb screw it in. And now the PC's built, we got power to everything, all the fans are in. Last thing is to turn it on, which in this case I did load Windows to the SSD already, so I don't have to go through that process now. So that should be good. All right, so we got power to it all, the board has power. We'll turn it on. All the fans appear to be working, and we posted. Now this build I did test before I built it. Since I did buy the parts used, I put it on a box and I tested the board to make sure it all booted up properly. I also texted the graphics card because in case I needed to return it today. Since I did buy the graphics card open box at Micro Center, I like to test them and make sure I don't need to return them. But everything looks good. I'll leave the plastic on it until after I ship it and let them take it off since it's pretty much brand new. Plus it'll protect it a little during shipping. But this pretty much is a very nice budget PC build. You got your i5 in it. Is a 6402p. I do plan on upgrading it before I ship it off. I can make a separate video of me updating the BIOS and installing a new CPU in it for them. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, the 500 watt power supply, 120 gigabyte SSD, 1 terabyte hard disk drive, which I'll have to format for them because it's probably not recognizing it right now. I did put the Wi-Fi adapter in it, and then the graphics card, I got the 1650 Super, which is a great budget GPU if anyone's looking for one. Thanks for checking this video out. Hopefully you guys, anyone looking to build a PC, it helps show them that it's really not as hard as people think. But make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more videos, more builds, and more stuff on my crypto mine. But thanks for checking it out. See you next time.